want to welcome you all into the 19th episode of Trojan Talk. I'm Zach Taranko here with Cole Purvis and Jeff Christianberry. Guys, how are you doing this morning?
Great.
All right.
So we will start this episode off today. Unfortunately, there's no TA sports to talk about because we are in between the winter and spring sports season. But just want to let you know that girls and boys lacrosse and baseball and softball will be starting in around the second week of April, and we will have a lot of TA TV games for lacrosse. We're hoping to get some baseball games if we can get Wi-Fi out in the field. It's kind of hard out there, but we're doing our best for that. But for at the moment, all we got is to talk about professional sports, and we'll start off with the Boston Celtics, who earlier this week were in first place. I think now they're tied for second, I think, with that loss to Toronto. But they get some unfortunate news. Robert Williams, their star defensive center, is out with a meniscus tear for I don't know how long. I think it said several weeks. But want to get your guys' thoughts on the Celtics with that. And do you think they can hold on to first place with the last month or so of the season?
I think it's been remarkable, obviously, the turnaround. I think they're like 24-5 since basically the beginning of the new year, and I certainly didn't see it coming. And it's impressive, no matter how cynical you want to be as a Celtics fan over the last few years, and hearing all the green teamers talk about just wait until the guys grow up, and this year it's kind of happened. So I don't think they're going to hold on to number one in the East. I think at this point, if Udoka is smart, this is where you start time managing, your players, and you don't want to try to, mess around with the standings too much. But I mean, I would be nervous about going into a first round matchup with the Nets, who are probably going to come out of that play-in tournament. So if you slide down to the 3 seed, it's maybe not the end of the world. There are a lot of teams right around there. I mean, there's still 5-6 games to go. So I think a lot could happen. They could still finish fourth. I mean, very easily, because you said there's like 3 teams tied for second. As far as the Robert Williams, I mean, it's a devastating injury. But the thing is, has to be a little expected. This guy is injury prone. That's one of the negatives about him. Can he come back? They said it's probably best case scenario for the second round of the playoffs. Yeah. So is it? I mean, Kendrick Perkins said basically the other day that he doesn't think they're a title team without Robert Williams. It's probably true. But it's not good. I mean, I think, they had basically a scheduled loss there against Toronto in the second half of the back-to-back, and basically most of the starting lineup is out. So can they do it? Can they finish first in the East? They could, but I don't see it happening. I see them finishing third or fourth. And without Robert Williams, it's going to be, depending on the matchup in the first round, if they match up against the Heat or something like that, it could be in trouble without Robert Williams.
Yeah, it's a significant loss, Robert Williams. He's a championship player. He's kind of that third option, especially defensively. He holds together one of the best defenses in the NBA with him and Marcus Smart. He's just one of the elite rim protectors in the NBA with his energy and everything. But like you said, he's been injury prone. He's had knee injuries since college, and that was the knock on him. But I think the issue with this injury is that you could rush him back for the playoffs, or you could wait till next year where he's 100%. I'm hearing there's 2 different procedures that they could do. And with the Celtics having their one day on top of the Eastern Conference, it was literally just one day. Their fans have skyrocketed their expectations and now think they're a real title contender and things like that. So I think they might end up rushing him back, but I do think this significantly impacts their playoff results. I think they're probably a second-round exit, and if they get matched up with Brooklyn, I would be very scared of Kevin Durant and with how hot Kyrie Irving is playing. So we'll see how it shakes out, but the Robert Williams injury is unfortunate.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think second-round exit because that's probably going to be a team like Philadelphia or Milwaukee. And how do you play against Giannis and Joel Embiid with your top defensive player? And I would say one of the top defensive players in the NBA, not on the court. So, and also, I mean, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are both nursing some knee issues right now too. So they're having some injury issues. Probably the worst time of the year because this is when you really got to win those games. But we'll watch them through the last part of that regular season and the playoffs. But now we'll move over to the NCAA Men's Division I March Madness Tournament, which we saw the St. Peter Peacocks Cinderella Run come to an end. I enjoyed watching it. I loved Doug Edert. They lose to North Carolina, and I watched that game, and it was terrible. They didn't play very well. But everything else was great. They beat Purdue. They beat Kentucky. We'll start with Cole. Cole, what are your thoughts on the St. Peters Cinderella Run?
Well, I just want to start by saying last Trojan Talk episode, I told everybody that I had Kentucky and Iowa in the championship.
Which was
that was a rough day.
Yep.
They both lost in the first round. If you don't know what happened, St. Peter's won. But in the end, I'm honestly glad St. Peter's won because it was fun to watch them go all the way to the Elite Eight. And that's why we love March, because a tiny school beat an elite program like Kentucky and then Purdue, and they beat Murray State, who's good as well. They were like a 7 seed. But it was super fun to watch. Doug Edert got hot, and they have some other guys that really stepped up to be clutch against Kentucky and Purdue. It's just crazy how a team with multiple NBA players can lose to a small school like St. Peter's, but it was so fun to watch.
Yeah, I can't believe it. I really can't because I almost believe the Kentucky upset a little bit, and even Murray State a little bit, because for those teams, you're like, well, who is this team? Who's the St. Peter's team? Like, you don't really get to see them on the big stage. But Purdue had basically a whole week to prepare for them.
Yeah. Yep.
And like you said, is a top team and has NBA-ready players, and they still lost. And it's not like St. Peter's went out and shot 80% from three-point land or something like that. They just beat them like play by play. So it was incredible. And I don't know how it happens. We see though. I mean, we've seen these bigger upsets more recently. When I was a kid, it was like once every 10, 15 years would you see a 15 seed win, and certainly not a 16 seed. And then you've seen UMBC the other a couple years ago, which I still think was the bigger upset, because Virginia was defending national champs and like they were unbelievable.
Yeah.
But I mean, in general, the Final Four predictions. I mean, I'm a Duke fan, so I can't believe they've gone this far, because I haven't watched them much this year, but. I thought they were going to lose second round. They were struggling there. Big wins over Texas Tech and who the hell can they beat? Arkansas. Yeah. But I mean, to set up this dream matchup against North Carolina. I mean, I first looked at the bracket like at the beginning. I'm like, wow, that'd be really cool if they made the Final Four. But there's no way UNC is going to make it, let alone Duke. And then UNC makes this kind of magical run as well, which I hate, because I hate UNC as much as I'm going to enjoy the game Saturday. Because obviously, with Coach K ending his career, I mean, it's just magical that he could win a national championship. But I can't believe it got to this point. So my Final Four predictions: I think Duke beats North Carolina, and I think Kansas beats Villanova, and I think Kansas beats Duke in the final.
I think Duke and UNC seem like the best teams left. Just the way that they have been winning, they both seem like special teams. Duke, a tough win over Texas Tech. They had to fight to beat Michigan State as well in the second round. And then Arkansas was a good team as well. But then you look at North Carolina, and North Carolina literally only plays 5 guys. Maybe they'll go into their bench if somebody gets into foul trouble. You saw that against Baylor. But the impressive thing about UNC is I think they've had a slightly tougher schedule than Duke, although they did have to play a 15 seed in the Elite Eight. They beat the defending national champs in Baylor in what was a crazy game. I watched that game. That was awesome. But then UCLA. UCLA was a team that I was big on. I thought they were probably going to go to the Final Four, a team that was in the Final Four last year, and they have a ton of veterans, so it's just crazy how UNC was able to get over that hump. But I think if Duke can get them into foul trouble, make them go to their bench, Duke should be able to pull this one out. But I just want to enjoy this game because it's so crazy that these two are meeting. And don't sleep on the other game either. The other game is really good. You get a 1 versus a 2. I did pick Villanova to go to the Final Four. That was my one correct prediction, so at least I got one. I agree with you. Kansas and Duke. I think Kansas looked really good. They really turned it on in the second half versus Miami, but should be exciting to see. It almost seems too good to be true, though, for Coach K to go out with a championship in his last year.
Yeah. See, I think that UNC is going to beat Duke, and I think that one of the things people should know is that they were worthy of a higher than 8 seed. They have a really good team. It wasn't a very good regular season, but they have some of the best guards in Division I basketball, and so I think UNC Villanova which is back to a couple of years ago when they had games the championship back to back. So I think it'll be a good one, but I think I have Villanova for the win this year. But again, it's gonna be fun to watch. There's no brackets left, so it's you're just watching now, which is a little different. But we'll now move to some soccer topics. Recently, Canada in the last week or so went out and beat Jamaica 4-0 and clinched the World Cup, a spot in the World Cup, which haven't happened in a long time. I'm not sure when the last time Canada was in. But now we look over the United States, who's been struggling to make the World Cup. But they're in a pretty good spot here. They have to beat Costa Rica or lose by less than 6 goals to make it in. That game is tonight. So we just want to get your thoughts on the United States. Think about the World Cup. And again, we have some other topics. Italy's not going to make it for the second year in a row. So just some thoughts on the World Cup.
So yeah, I'm a big soccer guy. So obviously the United States, fails to make the World Cup last time in Russia, which was just devastating and inexcusable. And this time, they're in. I mean, basically they're in. There's no way they can lose by 6 goals to Costa Rica.
They could. I mean, it's possible.
It'd be one in a million shot.
Yeah.
Not as crazy as North Macedonia beating Italy and knocking them out of the World Cup last week as well. But for the U.S., I mean, look, it's job done. I mean, they needed to get in with this kind of group of players. They still have a younger group in general. And, got Kristen Pulisic and Gio Reyna, guys like that. Winston McKennie as well. They're all playing over in Europe now. They're all playing at the top levels, playing in the Champions League and everything. So they needed to get through, and they did. I mean, they haven't had they have had some kind of not so great results, but they got it done when they needed to. The game the other night was fun to watch against Panama, who just kind of melted in the first half, and we scored 4 goals. And again, the game against Costa Rica, I'm glad it's not really worth that much because we've never won in Costa Rica in qualifying. Yeah. And good for Canada, like you said before. I mean, it's been a long, long time. Here's what's interesting is the way that the world soccer is going right now. I hope fans have really enjoyed this kind of cycle because this is not going to happen much anymore. So you think next World Cup is going to be hosted by the United States and Mexico and Canada. So all 3 of those teams are going to get automatic qualification to the World Cup, so we don't have to qualify. So basically, after the World Cup, we have no significant games for 4 years. Yep. After that, the World Cup is absurdly expanding to 48 teams from 32.
Oh my goodness!
So because they want more countries in it, so it's more money and all that. So basically, the qualifying for a team like the United States and Mexico is going to be a joke because they're going to let in another probably 2 or 3 teams from CONCACAF, and the chance of the United States or Mexico being the 6th and 7th best team in qualifying is just not realistic. So it's unfortunate because the World Cup, I think, is going to change over the next 10 to 15 years where it's not. And now the FIFA president wants a World Cup every 2 years because they want to make more money, and they say it's for the lower countries, but I think it's terrible. So I think, kind of not to go off on a whole side note here, but if you're the TV partners, for one thing, that host that do these games, not the World Cup games with qualifying, or if you're over here in this part of the world, CONCACAF, which is basically North America and Central America, you need to figure some kind of tournament. So the Europeans have the Euros, which are every 4 years, the opposite even year of the World Cup. Huge tournament, worldwide audience. Yeah. We don't have anything like that. We have the Gold Cup over here, which is kind of a joke. I mean, whatever. But over here, what we really need to do is combine with South America to make some kind of like America's tournament, which we've done once in a while. But so we can play Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, teams like that. Mm-hmm. Have that on every other the off year of the World Cup as well, because if not, you're not going to have many significant games for these guys to prepare for the World Cup, and it's going to cheapen it. So anyway, long story short, great for the U.S. to qualify. I wish it wasn't in Qatar because I was looking to go and I was looking at flights. The flights are like $5,000.
Isn't Qatar like one of the smallest countries in the world?
Oh yeah, it only has like 300,000 people or something. Yeah. They had to build the entire infrastructure for this, and like hundreds of, I don't know the exact number, maybe in the thousands of people have died building this thing because they brought in slave labor from other countries. Yeah, and I don't use that term like as a facetious term. It's like literally slaves. They'd come to Qatar, they take their passport, and they wouldn't be able to leave until they finished the job. So the whole thing's so dirty. This Qatar should not have ever got this tournament anyway, and people have been fired and gone to jail for this, but it's happening. The only interesting thing about the World Cup this year, the most interesting thing, is that it's happening in November. Yep. So it's going to be going up against some other big sports, though, because of the time change. There shouldn't be too much overlap with football when they happen on Sundays. But good for the U.S.
baseball though, because with the delay in the beginning, the
World Series
might be in November. But
yeah.
I mean, as you said, it's probably going to be the best year to watch the World Cup. Is probably this year, because after it's going to be a little bit more like everyone gets in, let's all have fun and play, and no one really likes that. But we'll move quickly to talk about the Boston Bruins. Last night lost to the Maple Leafs 6-4. Not a really good game for the Bruins. They were fighting their way back in the division, struggling to stay in there, but it's a big loss for them. They have about 15 games left in the season. They play Tampa Bay and Toronto one more time, so hopefully they can get up there. But the NHL playoffs will be really tight this year. The Eastern Conference has some really good teams, so watch the Bruins play in the playoffs soon. It ends end of April, I believe. We'll quickly talk about 2 Maine basketball players who have
three.
Oh, excuse me. That's right, because it's the Flag Brothers. 3 players who in the last, I think that was yesterday for the Flag Brothers, but then about a week ago, JP Estrella, all committing to different prep schools. JP Estrella going to Brewster Academy in New Hampshire, and Cooper and Ace Flag going to Mount Verde in Florida. I know Brewster well. I know they've produced some NBA players like Donovan Mitchell, Will Barton, some pretty good players in the last 5 or 10 years. I'm not really sure about Mount Verde, but the Flag flags, both freshmen, so they'll get some time there.
Yeah.
Some pretty big. It's pretty big. That hasn't happened in a long time for TA athletes, and just want to get you guys' thought, or excuse me, on Maine athletes. Get your thoughts on that move for them and what that changes for Class A and Class AA basketball next year.
I mean, it's one of those things. It was expected. We've talked about it for a while that it's probably going to happen. It's just still like there's some Twitter controversy last night too, because someone from the Bangor Daily News predicted that one of these three are going to come back to Maine at some point, which is kind of interesting. Yeah. I mean, obviously he's thinking one of the Flag twins, maybe Ace. I mean, it's basically about Ace Flag because he doesn't have as much hype as his brother.
Yep.
I think it's. I mean, again, it's great for them. It's just disappointing because you wanted to see, especially the Flag brothers. You want to see these guys. You want to see these guys play their whole careers and completely understand why they'd want to go. I mean, I would too. Don't blame them at all. I was just looking up quickly online. So Montverde, I mean, they have some ridiculous pedigree. Just in the last 10 years, R.J. Barrett, Luke Baamote, D'Angelo Russell, and Ben Simmons all went to this academy. So this is like Oak Hill Academy. People know Oak Hill, just like that kind of place. So, I mean, the fact that they both got in there was pretty fantastic. So, again, how does it help them? It helps them immensely. The problem is going to be, will they? They're still a long way away. If they want to go to the NBA or want to go to top end college, they're still 3 years away from that. It's going to be tougher for Maine people to follow the Flag Twins, especially because they'll be down in Florida. Yeah. But we may be able to see them on TV once in a while because those teams play on ESPN. As far as how it hurts basketball, I mean, it definitely hurts basketball in Maine. I mean, you've seen a ton of media people and other little companies that have kind of popped up and been able to cover these three players this year. Really two, because Ace Flag is good, but Cooper and JP were in a class of their own. Cover these guys, go to their games, huge crowds, and now that's all gone. So what's going to happen? Do we have any more superstars coming through the ranks, or is Maine basketball going to slide back into what it's been the last 5 or 6 years since we've had another legit D1 player? Whereas it's entertaining for us here in the state, but you're not getting people traveling from out of state to come and see these games. So it's expected but disappointing. I would like to see them play a little bit more, but good for those guys looking for their top tier Division I offers, and hopefully you just enjoyed when we had them here.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I think whether or not you like South Portland or Nokomis or anything, you should be happy that these guys, they put Maine on the map for basketball this year. So much out-of-state coverage. When JP and Cooper played against each other in the preseason, that game got so much media attention, and it's really blown up on social media and stuff like that for these guys. So I'm happy for them that they can go to big schools and get some big opportunities. Of course, like you said, a lot of great players went to Montverde Academy, including Cade Cunningham, the first pick in the draft last year. So good luck to them, and I think Maine basketball will be fine. Maybe it's not as much out-of-state attention, but it's gonna be a lot more competitive now because South Portland they lose their best player, and that's an opportunity for schools like TA and Bonnie Eagle, Gorham. Yeah, so should be interesting.
Yeah, I think it's great for them. I think, as you said, I think we knew this was coming. I think we knew next year at least one of them or two of them were going to leave. The one thing that I feel bad. I feel bad for the Flag brothers. Like, I wouldn't want to go to the same school as my brother and have to compete for that. I would have if I was Ace or Cooper, I'd be like, oh, I'll go to this school instead. We can have our own thing. But hey, I think it's cool they get to be together down there, so that'll be fun. Yeah. And we'll talk now about. I got a question for both of you guys, which is something I've been thinking about all morning. But what sports moment of all time, any sport, do you wish you could have been in the stands for? So this could be any sport.
2019, the Masters when Tiger wins. I would say that one. I'm a big golf fan. I know a lot of kids don't love golf, but whatever. And speaking of Tiger, he hasn't ruled out playing in the Masters this year, which would be crazy. I mean, he almost, lost a limb last year in a car crash, and he practiced at Augusta the other day, I heard. And so if he played this year, that would be crazy. Just for him to play, I don't expect him to contend, but if he did, that would be even more awesome. Yeah. But yeah, I really wish I could have been there in 2019. That's probably one of the most memorable sports moments of the last 10 years. But there's a lot of good ones that I could have chosen.
So I have two. First one actually is a Tiger one, but it was not. It was the 2015 Masters. I think it was 2015 when he hit the best golf shot of all time. He was on 16 where he hit it off into the rough and basically shot the ball directly opposite onto the green, or chipped it onto the green, and it rolled down, and then it sat on the lip for like 4 seconds and then rolled in.
Yep.
Every time I watch that clip, I just get goosebumps because I remember watching it on TV, and I wasn't the biggest Tiger fan because he was still dominating at that point. I just jumped off my couch and just lost my mind. So that would have been so cool to be there for that. But number one is going to be something that's going to be totally obscure, but it's more of a near and dear to my heart. Was in 2009 when Boston University won the national championship in hockey. 2 years after I graduated, we were down 2-1. No, we were down 2 goals, 3-1 in the last minute of the national championship game. Game is over, no chance. We scored 2 goals in the last minute against Miami of Ohio, and then we win in overtime. And I was sitting at home by myself, and I've never screamed as loud in my life as when we tied the game with like 20 seconds to go. And I would have loved to have been there with my friends. So it was in DC, and we thought about going because BU was pretty good at hockey when I was around, but we never made it to the Frozen Four. And that team was loaded, and we were thinking, should we go? I don't know. It's expensive, and we were just out of college, and we didn't have any money. Yeah. So we decided not to go. And man, if we could have gone that, we would have loved to have been there because I did have a couple other people I went to school with who went and said it was like the best moment ever. Because when you pour your heart and soul into a team like that, and they're your school, they can win a national title. I think that would have been really cool to be at.
Yeah. I got 2 as well. I'll start with the Bruins games, 2013 Game 7 quarterfinals versus Maple Leafs. We were down 4-1 with about 9 minutes to go in the third, scored 3, then the overtime winner. That's awesome. I think also the Game 7, I don't know which year it was, with the Cavaliers and the Warriors when LeBron had the block on Iguodala. Yeah. I just feel like that's just one of those things like you see it once, it's just like it's memorable. Like something you're always gonna remember for the rest of your life. And I think it was the year the Cavs were down 3-1 the series and came back.
Came back and won. Sucked.
Yeah. But it's some great moments. There's a lot. I mean, there's been so many, especially in the last few years. But yeah, there's a lot of things I wish I could have been at. But again, tickets for that are insanely
too bad. Yeah.
So we'll finish off today's episode with a new segment I like to call Pick the Winner. It's an idea I've picked up from a few broadcasts. So over each episode for the next, or I don't know how the rest of the school year, we can do it as long as we want. I will ask us to pick the winners of 3 to 5 different games from the NBA, NHL, different sporting different leagues, and I'll keep a record of how many we get right, how many get wrong, and then maybe we'll have a winner and a loser and some kind of punishment or something.
All right. So let's start with Cole's bracket. Oh, never mind.
So we'll start off with the game tonight, which obviously I think most of us will pick the winner here, but I think it's a pretty big game. The Heat are playing at the Celtics tonight, and we'll start with Cole. Cole, your pick for the game?
Give me the Heat.
Okay. Jeff?
I'll go the Heat as well.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with the Heat as well. So just write that in here. But
the Celtics have Tatum back. Who's playing?
See, I don't know. So not Robert Williams, but then you've got.
I think everyone's supposed to be back tonight.
I think so. Right. I think that they called it like right knee tendopathy or something. It's just like where your knee hurts.
Well, here's the other thing too to think about is, and I don't have to much research on this, but like when you saw Al Horford out for personal reasons, the fact is a lot of these guys don't play in Toronto games because they're not vaccinated and they can't go, and it's embarrassing for them to say I'm not vaccinated, so they just say they have injuries or whatever else. So not saying that's the case 100%, but that's a possibility.
You know what? Give me the Celtics.
Okay, so Cole switched it up. He's going for the Celtics. All right.
Bam is gonna bang the boards tonight.
But the Heat recently have been struggling. Like they were up by like 19 points, and then they're having some bench issues.
Oh, I saw that. It was crazy. That video was nuts. Jimmy Butler's out of his mind, but he's a fantastic player.
Well, you're going up against Udonis Haslem, who's been in this league for like 25 years.
Haslem he's a beast though. He's an old guy. You can't fight an old guy.
He's playing though. I don't know. But okay, so next game we'll go to the NHL, which is it's a little obscure, but the LA Kings at the Edmonton Oilers, both teams fighting for the second place spot in the Pacific Division. Both teams have been on kind of a hot streak recently. You guys got a pick for that game?
I could name one player on either of those teams, Connor McDavid. So I'm gonna go with Connor McDavid and the Oilers. Mark me down.
Me too. Why not?
Okay. I'm gonna go for the Kings because I want to go a little different.
Is Joe Thornton still in the Kings? He ever play in the Kings or San Jose? He played in San
Jose. He's now in Florida.
Oh,
and he's got the biggest beard you've ever seen.
Yeah.
All right. So the next game is going to be tomorrow, which is the Milwaukee Bucks at the Brooklyn Nets, which is a primetime game.
Give me the Nets.
Okay, Cole with the Nets. Jeff?
I'm gonna go with the Bucks.
Okay, I'm gonna go with the Bucks as well because I just feel like I know that now Kyrie can play at home because they dropped the
shockingly.
mandate.
But right as the playoffs roll around and the Yankee season starts, they change the rules.
But still no Simmons, which I'm not sure when he's coming back, and I just feel like they're not complete yet. And they still have the issue with is Blake Griffin even? They don't know if he's sitting on the bench. Sometimes he's playing. And the last game for this week is on Friday. The Phoenix Suns at the Memphis Grizzlies.
I'm gonna go with Suns.
So Ja's still out, correct?
I have no idea.
For that game? Yeah, I'll still take the Suns. Suns are winning the championship.
Ooh.
I'm gonna go with Grizzlies because they're at home. I've learned throughout my years that sometimes you just don't bet against teams that are at home because they can use that to their win. So that will do it for the Pick the Winner, but that's also going to do it for the episode here. Thank you all for listening, and we'll be back next week for the 20th episodes. It's been a long ride.
We're getting there.
We're getting there.
We'll have at least one interview next week with a player. We'll start doing some season previews on our spring sports because it's time. It's really cold out there this week for those kids. It's going to warm up here, and Cole, give us some tennis updates, some copious tennis updates as we go through the season.
All right, well, that'll do it, and thank you all for watching this episode.